Welcome everyone to another episode of the DJ Force 10 podcast. I have a very special guest today. You can see him already, but it's Colin Hoult, actor, writer, stand-up comedian. I mean, there's a lot of things you get on that you've done.
There's too many things, to be honest. I need to focus. I need to settle on one.
I think so. I think so. I mean, I was going
Yeah,
through your the bio and everything everyone sent me in, and I have seen you in various
yeah,
things, and people would have seen you in Derek, Afterlife, and Life's Too Short. Obviously, all those are Ricky Gervais, Steve Marchant shows. You've
yeah,
also this time of Alan Partridge. You're kind of in and out of in the second
yeah,
series.
yeah.
Murder in Successville. You're
Yes,
recently a character in the made up stories of Dick Turpin or about Dick Turpin. I can't remember what it's called. The Apple.
I was very briefly. I haven't seen it, to be honest. I
Okay,
mean,
cool.
quite a lot of things I haven't seen. Also, with my ADHD, I can never remember what I've been in and what I
Yeah,
haven't a lot of the time.
I can imagine
So
that is
actually,
incredibly.
it's really making me feel good that I've been in all this stuff, part of me, because I just
Yeah,
didn't realize,
I know
I
it's
had no
crazy, isn't
idea. I've
it?
forgotten half of that at least.
I
Yeah,
could have gone further back. There's so much other stuff that I could have gone into,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I thought I picked the most recent, the ones that are there. But I mean, people can go and have a look and see your whole biography of things that you've done up until now, and
It's
also.
funny when you start out as an actor. Sorry to interrupt. When you
No,
start
no,
as an
no,
actor,
no.
you do your CV, and for many years you have like your first three jobs are literally like school plays. Do you know what I mean? Like what you did at university and stuff. And then I think about 10 years ago, I realized I'd left all of them still on there, and I thought I should probably update it a little bit. Do you know what I
I had
mean?
to do that recently with mine.
Well, like,
I still have my GCSEs and everything on it, and I'm like, I'm
yeah, yeah, yeah,
44 now, and I'm like,
yeah.
I don't think I'd pass them
Yeah.
now. So,
Mm.
and I barely did it back then. So,
Yeah.
um,
Can you imagine if that was the reason why I still gave you a job or not? Was because you got like a C in French.
yeah, that would have been, yeah,
That was what it was hanging on.
that
Anyway,
was,
sorry.
yeah. No,
Yeah,
I got a
yeah.
couple of teenagers, so they're going through that at the moment. One of them is starting
Oh
to work,
God.
so their CV is very minimal because they've not had much work experience as such.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all like down. They've just one of them's just had their GCSE results, so they've just gone through that. But they rate them in numbers now. So you don't get letters. You get
Oh really? You
you
get
get
out
like
of 10?
no, it's like a score of I think it's like nine is an A star, eight's an
Yeah.
A, seven's an A minus or B plus or something. But
Oh, that's
they've
weird.
changed the markings the way they do it,
Oh,
and it's confusing because I'm used to
feels
the
a bit Terminator 2, doesn't it? All feels a bit brainy,
yeah.
bit computerized.
Yeah, exactly. And they all get
Humans.
predicted grades and then they don't attain them or they change the grade boundaries or whatever. I don't know. But
Ugh.
it was a whole
Ugh.
drama. It was a whole drama. I've
I've
got to
got
go
all
through.
this to come. Mine are still only 7 and 9, so
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah.
don't want to be involved in all that stuff.
Yeah.
No, I should explain it. I'm very happy to. I'm very happy to. I love helping my kids with their schoolwork and learning and stuff. But it's just the faff. Do you know what I mean? There's so
Yeah. I
much
mean,
bureaucracy. You've got just so much stuff
uh,
you got to do nowadays, isn't it? It's like when
yeah.
you park, you've got to like go through a series of forms to park and stuff on your phone. It's quite insane. Anyway, sorry.
It is no, no. It's utterly insane. Like my kids put so
Mm.
much pressure on themselves during this time. Like
Yeah.
because I didn't do that well in school, so I've never put that
Right.
pressure on them to do well because I've done other stuff since. So it's not like the big
Yeah.
window. But they just put this
Well,
on.
you've created your own world, haven't you? Really, you've
Yeah,
created your
essentially.
own job, basically.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, there's this. I've got a day job as well, but I was a
yeah,
musician. I still am, but I was a touring musician, I should say,
right.
and things like that. So I've got quite a background in music
Mm,
and a little bit journalist, obviously this part, and there was some bits before, and all that kind of stuff. So my I went through the creative stages where they're more
mm,
academic, probably down to my wife's side of things.
yeah.
Actually, was what I was going to say as well, because like with your ADHD diagnosis, my wife also has the four letters of doom. Um,
Oh, really? Is she a new? Is she part of the new batch?
uh,
That's what I say in the show. Are you new batch or OG
she's
ADHD?
she's kind of she was diagnosed late. Um,
Yes, a lot of
so
women are in particular because
yeah,
in fact, until recently, they didn't think women could get it, or they just assumed women
yeah,
couldn't. In the way Queen Victoria thought lesbians didn't exist, it was in that kind of
yeah, in that
kind
kind
of
of,
thinking, I think.
but it very much does exist, and I live with it,
Yeah.
and we manage it and all that kind of stuff. And it's
Uh-huh.
she was diagnosed in her sort of mid 20s. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
so
She showed it for a while. Yeah.
kind of OG, but also late because she's already sort of got these traits from her
Yeah.
teenage years upwards, and thought that
Has it helped her? Has it sort of changed her life quite a lot? I mean,
it
it's
has. Yeah.
is she similar age to you? But
Yes. Yeah. Same
yeah,
age.
right. So it's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah, so but yeah, it's definitely helped her. She's she went down the route of like the usual sort of like medication side of it. That didn't work. And then we kind of like looked at managing it, and sort of picking up on the sort of triggers, and when she's in a hyper focus, when she's like when she's sort of easily distracted as well. It works on both
Yeah.
sides. And we just kind of like, I'm the memory, and she's kind of like, she's more action orientated anyway, but like she forgets a lot of things because
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah.
can't retain a lot of information.
I've forgotten the question I asked you now.
Yeah, no,
But
no.
you, but that's so you've found a sort of synthesis, a way of working,
Yeah, yeah,
like,
pretty much. Yeah,
yeah,
we work off each other, and it's
like
just
Venom. Yeah.
yeah, exactly that,
Like
exactly that.
ADHD Venom.
Yeah, yeah,
He's
that's very
Eddie,
well.
Venom's actually, I think probably Eddie Brock's the ADHD, isn't he?
Yeah, yeah, Venom's the monster.
Venom's just a psychopath.
Yeah.
It's a different thing.
So does that make me the psychopath, or does that make me Eddie?
No, well, I think to neurodiverse people, I think neurotypical people often seem like psychopaths, perhaps.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That is true.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
probably vice versa. Sorry, but that's great. That's great. You've
Yeah,
got a synthesis going on. I mean, me and my wife, yeah, we've it's changed our lives completely now with our kids and stuff, and then that's what this show's about. That I'm doing basically
yeah,
is like going back through the generations and just looking at. It's not that I'm very clear that I'm not trying to tell other people's story for them. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to
yeah,
like
yeah,
label people or diagnose people or anything like that. But it's just seeing how the world I came from, how a lot of that was not discovered or spoken about, realized.
yeah,
We had no concept for it, so everyone just felt weird and out of place. And how do I survive this world? Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
And
No,
so it's yeah. So I think it's fantastic.
no, it is. I mean, it's one of those things, and because they've now incorporated everything into one as well. Because you used to have ADD, ADHD. Now you've got ADHD as the broad term, but then you've got all the sort of sub bits in there as well, like
Yeah,
non-communicative
and not necessarily
non-attentive.
hyperactive.
Yeah, exactly,
You know,
exactly.
the hyperactive isn't even a thing. I always feel like I wasn't hyperactive. I wasn't like jumping on tables and stuff like
Yeah,
that. But well, when I perform, it's like it all just comes out.
yeah,
And also, I feel like almost like a car trying to move in neutral. Do you know what I mean? It's like my head is going round a million miles, but like because I learned to kind of repress it and stuff. It's like I just I can appear very calm and still, but actually it's like
yeah.
sort of
Internally,
thunderstorm
yeah,
inside. It's like anyway, yeah.
yeah. I mean,
It's interesting. I'm glad you've found that. It's good to
yeah.
really nice to hear.
I
Yeah.
mean, there are difficult moments, always will be, because there are parts
Mm.
where I've forgotten something, she's forgotten something, and try and remember, or something, whatever happens, or the
Mm.
kids as well. Like they're growing up with this in their lives, but they're not diagnosed with anything
Mm.
on that front. But it's sort of like they're having to learn about that, and learn how to work with or Liz, I call her, that's her name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Working with her, and then
Yeah.
trying.
Don't call her mum.
No, no, no.
Oh, you can to the kids, I suppose. Yeah. Yeah,
I
fair
can, yeah. To the kids, that's
enough.
fine. But anywhere else, it's just
Yeah.
not right. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, you just and how they react to it. Obviously, they're them as sort of teenagers, they get their own frustrations. They're having their own,
Yeah.
battles internally. So a lot of the times there's a few clashes, stuff like that. But there's a mediator here that that kind of steps in and just goes, okay, you go over there, you go over there. This is what's going on. I've heard your argument, and it's sort of stepping in between.
Nice bit of perspective.
Yeah, it's just trying to manage it, and so they can then understand it. I mean, they don't quite get it,
Yeah.
because they're sort of they
I
don't
mean,
feel it.
that's really sweet. I mean, that's again, just to talk about my show again.
Oh no,
I
go
suppose
for
that's
it.
why I'm here. But
That's why we're here.
that's sort of what I talk about. So the show is called Colin, and my name's obviously Colin, but it's more really about my dad, who was also called Colin, and he called me
Okay.
Colin. Which is a weird thing because he wasn't a very arrogant man. I don't know why. Do you know what I mean? It's the kind of thing Logan Roy in Succession might do or something.
Yeah.
He was quite a humble guy, And I come to my own conclusions about why that might have been. My dad died 20 years ago, but he was very much the neurotypical one amongst us. It just made me think what you were saying about your role. What I sort of talk about in the show is because he didn't have that understanding and awareness, because we didn't literally know what any of that stuff was back then. It didn't really exist to us, or if it did, it was in a very niche sort of nothing to do with his world. Things like neurodiversity. I don't think even the word neurodiversity had big coin then,
No.
but he didn't have that element of just going, okay, you're all right, you go and sit down for a minute, you go over, do you know what I mean, you relax, it's okay, just go and read a book. Or one thing we do it with our kids is the traffic light thing, where sometimes you're in red and there's no getting out of it, there's no talking about it isn't going to change it. Do you know what I mean? You just have to go and sit down or read something. Or sorry, it's a very loud trolley going past.
It's all right.
We just have to go and you just have to go and do something nice, watch a program you like, something like that. But gradually get to orange, where we can discuss it and all that, and eventually you're in green, where you're fine. And that really works, that system. But my dad didn't have any of that, and I think a lot of the time he just withdrew and just kind of sat in his chair and just shut down, to be honest, because he didn't know how to cope with. We were all, I describe it as best like whack-a-mole. It's like one, you calm one down, the next one's come up. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So this is why I think it's so important, all that, to get that understanding personally.
Oh no, definitely. I mean, I grew up in a house of many, I should say. I've got three brothers and a sister, so there was a lot of a lot going on to everyone, and we're all, obviously, I'm like second youngest. I've got a younger brother, I've got two older brothers, and brothers fight, brothers quarrel, brothers whatever. Sister is the oldest, and she wasn't the sensible one either. So
right.
it was just having that all around us all the time, and I can totally understand why maybe my mum would sit down and just zonk out or my dad would, or whatever, and it was just growing up with that. And like you say, like, a lot of the things weren't around then. Like, I've got a brother who's dyslexic, and that wasn't really a thing back then. And it's just, I mean, now obviously we're more aware of other people, and we've kind of given a name to some of the behaviors, whereas, like, you get your school report through back in the day, goes, oh, you need to apply yourself, needs to pay attention, needs to all that, and these were all traits of what is modern day, I'd say, ADHD or ADD. And a lot of people go undiagnosed throughout their whole life, and things are difficult. And then when, like you said, had yours recently, how long ago were you diagnosed?
I think it was 3 years ago now.
Very recent.
Very recent, really.
I mean, from your own perspective, did that open up, like, when you got that diagnosis, did everything just kind of like fall into place? But
when I sat down, so it came from my wife talking to one of her friends who had the diagnosis, and she came to me. My wife said to me that this is all stuff you do and all stuff you have, like just drifting off, not being able to focus, starting a project, then starting another project before that project's got off ground. And when I say projects, I mean on a bigger level, as in a script, but also on a smaller level, like making a cup of tea, minutes before you've got to be at a thing, and then you start doing 8 other things, you know what I mean? And it's annoying, and it's silly, and it's like, oh, bloody hell, what are you like? But in actual fact, it's really painful. Do you know what I mean? For the person going through it, it's really painful. Transitioning, as in leaving the house, going through, that's what they talk about, transitions, just even, getting out the shower or getting dressed. Do you know what I mean? It's just a thing that people do automatically, but it can become impossible, when you're depending where your head's at. It's to do with tiredness often, and distraction and overwhelm. But anyway, I sat down, I watched this video called How to ADHD, a series of videos on YouTube. And I really burst into tears. It just absolutely overwhelmed me watching this. And it was just, it's so weird, because in my head, I've got this, dichotomy where there's like, part of me is the voice of that sort of growing up in Nottingham and around that sort of background, where a lot of things were kind of sneered at. Do you know what I mean? This kind of thing. It'd be like, oh, what's up with you? Just get on with it. You know what I mean? What are you moaning about? You're all right, and all that kind of thing. And so like that voice is it going on as even as I'm saying it to you now, even though I've literally done all the research, I've done a show about it that's gone really well. You know, it's still in my head constantly, this battle. But yeah, it just, and and that's another thing actually. I really don't have to connect to emotional stuff since finding out. You know, like I say, I just burst into tears, and that's it's not just opened up an understanding of why I was like I was and always felt different, always felt weird and never quite connected. And it's really connected like with my dad. You know, I never used to be able to cry about him dying and stuff. Do you know, I'll never be able to connect to it. And even in acting, actually, like some jobs I've done since, I've been able to kind of, you know, it's a bit of a classic cliche of an actor not being able to cry on cue and all that. You know, some people can. Ricky Gervais reckons it's just literally a thing some people could do. You know, like some people can roll their tongue,
Yes,
and some people can't. He reckons it's just that. He swears it's just that. I don't know if I believe it, but anyway. But now I can. I could really, you know what I mean. And I could never. There was like this block that I just couldn't. And I think it's that thing just going, you know, you're not right, you're weird, you know, I don't know, or just like a place you can't go to. And then suddenly it's like all open. It's like all these doors are open.
yeah,
And you could go down all these avenues and stuff. I've never done the medication part. I am partly afraid of it, if I won't lie. Just the idea of medication is kind of, I'm a bit weird about. I think I grew up around a lot of medication for other things and stuff, and I just don't like the idea of it. But I do find doing like yoga and exercise and doing my shows actually really keeps my mind level. Do you know what I mean? So I have to do a certain amount of gigs, and if I don't, or I have to exercise a lot.
Yeah.
Or I have to have something that kind of almost like expunges. I don't even know if that's a word. It gets rid of all the sort of overwhelm that's built up, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, the how to ADHD thing is incredible. Just it's just these years and years, and then with this show, what I've been able to do is just go back and look at that world I grew up in. You know, so the show's based around one Christmas when I said to my mum, could we just play like a normal Christmas game? You know, because Christmas was like normal, but times 1,000, because everyone's like, it's Christmas. You know what I mean? Everyone's like high as a kite. And I used to find it genuinely stressful Christmas. I used to like get too hot and like, do you know what I mean? It wasn't a weirdly an unpleasant situation because it was just rabid. Do you know what I mean? There was no like kind of and I say to my mum, should we just do can we play like a normal Christmas game? You know, I don't know what I was thinking, but like a Christmas game. And she goes, right, we're doing a Ouija board. And then the whole show is based around this family Ouija board we did at Christmas. And there's all the stuff that comes off it. But it's just looking back and seeing all that family, you know.
Yeah.
And that world we grew up in and the understanding of mental illness. It's a bit a line I'm walking really between mental illness and neurodiversity, because they're not necessarily the same thing. But I think, and this is based on research, this isn't just a crackpot theory, but I do believe that a lot of things like depression and anxiety, which people kind of understand now, you know, probably about 20 years ago, they became a thing we can all say to some degree. You know, there are obviously still people who deny it. I'm not depressed and all that stuff, but you know, but there's stuff we could say. But I think a lot of them, you know, a lot of things like that and OCD are treated for depression, anxiety. But actually, I think a lot of it is that it's people who are autistic or ADHD, and because they feel so awful and weird and disconnected, they get depressed and they get anxious and they get freaked out. So, and this is from a lot of reports I've read, you know, that people have been doped up on antidepressants and stuff. And I'm not like antidepressants or anything, but I've been on them myself. They're fine, you know, but a lot of people are like doped up on them. But actually the root cause is that you are neurodiverse and you don't know it. And so you just feel like a freak.
Yeah.
And you're depressed because of that, you know?
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. I talk about being autistic as well, you know, but which I think I am, but that is a self-diagnosis. You know?
Yes.
As I say in the show, I'm also self-diagnosed as a wonderful lover, you know, so take it with a pinch of salt.
Me too.
It's really funny because me and my wife, that is a joke I have in the show. Me and my wife work on the show together. And like when I'm going through it and I say that line, it's just like quite funny between us that I'm saying I'm self-diagnosed and wonderful, loving. My wife's literally there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think she agrees. I like to think she agrees.
Yeah.
She hasn't commented on it yet, but um, but yeah, but that's I mean, so with the show and with the podcast I do into the neurodiverse, I kind of treat neurodiversity as one thing. I know there's lots of strands,
Yeah.
but for me, it's kind of talking about it. I don't really get too much into the nut and bolts of the science, the mechanics of this is ADHD, this is autism, this is but people can have both. As I say in the show, we're not like vampires and werewolves, but it's yeah, it's and what's really interesting, I watch a video about having ADHD and autism, and it's someone who has ADHD and autism is different to people who are autistic and people who are ADHD, and might struggle talking to either of them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they can talk to people who do have both.
Yes.
And it's this weird thing where I often found ADHD people a bit too much. I mean, autistic people, I often feel a bit like I worry that I'm saying the wrong thing to them and stuff like that. Whereas people who are both, we connect. It's this weird,
the weird one.
Yeah, so bizarre. Anyway, sorry, I couldn't.
No, it's all right. I mean, when we talk about your tour, your show, and everything, you've got a whole bunch of shows coming up. Next week, you're at the Soho Theatre in
That's
London.
right. Yeah,
you got a little like 3 or 4 dates there. I think is it 4 or 5 days?
I know. So a whole week. Yeah, whole week.
Nice.
That's sold out almost. There's like literally a
Excellent.
well, that's couple of seats here and there.
Going out, I think day 2 of that. So, so you'll be in the.
Oh, is it right?
Yeah, you'll be in mid of that once this is out. It comes out every Tuesday, basically. So it'll be out next Tuesday.
Right.
But you've got a whole tour coming up in October. Going all over the country. I'm going to shout out a couple of venues because they're all near me.
Right.
Got G Live in Guildford. I'm actually going there tonight as well, which is kind of fun. I'm going to see Michael Palin do his latest.
What's he doing?
He's doing like a one-man book. Yeah, one of his latest books.
Oh, cool.
The Life of Me. I should have written it down, but I can't remember. He's doing like he's touring, like doing a mini tour book, doing a talk. It's the first time I've ever got to see him. I love his books. I obviously love him days as well, but I've always loved
such a warm, trusting what's the word? You just feel really safe and warm with Michael Palin, don't you?
I do.
He's like your dad or something, like the ultimate dad type character. Yeah,
he has.
I've always loved him.
Yeah, he's should I say, read me to sleep on many a night. I've got many audio books by him. So
how lovely.
It's it's going to be fun. It was a birthday present for me. I got back in February. So but yeah, I think it's one of his like diary books he's doing this year.
Lovely.
So
lovely.
It's going to be obviously when he was, I guess, I don't know if it's Python years or if it's just like to the movie years or whatever he's doing, but
yeah,
that will be cool. Because G Live is literally about 10 miles down the road from me. So
he feels like very much the neurotypical one amongst a load of neurodiverse people in Monty Python, doesn't he? In a way, he's like the one where you feel like they're all kind of a bit and he's just like going, okay, guys, let's all just he's maybe that's why you connect with him, because he's you.
yeah, you've got to have that. You've got to have that, haven't you? What are your plans?
A stable presence.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
No, it's all right.
Yes, Guildford.
Aldershot is another one you're playing. I've played that venue many times, the West End Centre.
It's nice, isn't it? I've done it before. Yeah.
Lovely staff there, lovely venue. Like I played like many gigs there back like 15-20 years ago. A lot of the staff haven't changed in that time. It's a lot, like, for the people that are happy to work there and everything, but great venue. And you're also another one that's near me is South Street Arts Centre in Reading. I work in Reading. That's my day job in that area.
Oh, cool.
I know those. Right. You're hitting Nottingham, Aberystwyth, Bath, Winchester, Brighton, Corsham, Birmingham. I'm going to go through them all. Canterbury, Norwich, Newcastle, Bristol, Swansea, Leeds, York, Bishop Auckland, Manchester, Liverpool, Chorley, Edinburgh, Glasgow, and Cambridge. And then obviously the other 3 that I've mentioned are in there as well. But
genuinely, some of those were news to me. I was like, am I?
You are. According to the list I got sent.
I'm so glad you read that. So glad you read that, because I cannot remember where I am at any point.
I mean,
but yeah, that's wonderful.
What I love about it, what I've always loved about like stand-up side of things, because I used to run a night many years ago when I was in one of my first jobs. I was a sound and lighting technician at a venue, and we'd have comedy nights, be it open mic or whatever. And we used to book acts coming through, like yourself would come through, do 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, and then go off to the next one and all that kind of stuff. And we used to book, was it Mirth Control? I think they were called.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I can't remember. I don't know if they still
yeah.
exist or not.
I
But
think so. Yeah.
I've always loved stand up. Like back in the day, I'm quite lucky to have seen some of the sort of like I'd say sort of great modern day greats, if you will, of stand up
Yeah.
comedy, like Lee Evans. I saw actually at
Oh
G,
wow. Yeah, yeah.
or what was G Live.
He's a big inspiration for me on this show, actually. He's very, yeah, always has been a big inspiration. And just his movement and sort of like dipping in and out of characters.
Yeah,
Like, because I used to do character shows where I was playing a character or a few characters, and a few people are like, oh, why have you stopped doing characters? And it's like, I haven't really. I just have, because I become them all through the
yeah,
show,
yeah,
and him and Richard Pryor are a great example of just being able to, jump between them.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, but yeah, Lee Evans, brilliant. I never
Yeah,
saw him live, to be honest, but yeah.
yeah, it was. I mean, I like back in the day. I mean, they used to all come through. So it used to be called the Civic.
Mm.
The G, what became G Live. So before it kind of
Right.
went derelict and then got rebuilt, um,
Yeah.
it hosted many people coming through. So the likes of Jack D, Harry Hill, Paul Merton. Obviously
Wow.
Evans already mentioned. I've still got the ticket stubs somewhere. Um,
Yeah. Oh,
and,
cool.
and booking these guys through as well. So I like we booked for one of the shows when I think it was Little Britain before it became a TV show. So when it was still the radio show,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
they did a
Yeah. Yeah.
tour and they played this venue. We booked them in for that because I knew um, Matt Lucas from being like George Dawes, if you will, on
Uh-huh.
Stars.
Oh, wasn't he brilliant? I mean, he still is brilliant.
Still
Sorry.
is brilliant, yeah.
Wasn't he brilliant? But George Dawes was like, no one knew what was happening, did they? Do you remember when he first appeared on Shooting Stars?
Yeah,
Everyone was just, what is this? What's going on? We love it. But what is it?
and I remember seeing,
Absolute life-changing seeing
yeah,
him do that.
no, like David Walliams was on a video game show for a little while on Sky for many years.
What was that? What Games Master?
No, not Games Master. There was another one. It was produced by
Welcome to my
Scott.
kingdom. Remember that?
Yeah, he was one of
I
these
used to
like
love.
they had these like characters who you'd play against.
Right.
And he was one of them. And because I used to have like Jet from Gladiator being like the games mistress. That's the only one I
Okay.
can really remember. I wonder why. Um, um, but
Oh,
he
we
was,
love Jet as well. She blew our minds as well, didn't she?
yeah,
Of
she
course.
did, she did.
Now we are old.
Now
We
we
look
are
back.
old. Yeah. Um, and he was a character on that would
Oh,
like
really?
playing a character and he would like play games against other people or whatever. Like it would be like Sonic the
Oh,
Hedgehog or
wicked.
something like that. I can't remember.
Right.
Games World, Games World, Games World.
Oh
Yes.
God, that's the kind of job you get as a comedian, and people, and you're like, oh, do I want to do that? Do you know?
Yeah. And you're like,
So basically, you come on as this giant frog, and
yeah.
you're like, okay.
But then you look back on it many years later when they've, obviously he's become as successful as he is, children's author,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
is a stand-up and then like, comedy and whatever. Um, but you can look back and say, I was the frog on that show. Um,
Yeah.
which is crazy to think about. But yeah, no, we used to book things like that. And I had a go at stand-up as well.
Oh,
I
really?
thought I
Right.
could do it. I thought I could do it, but it really wasn't for me. I prefer having an instrument or something to play with
Yeah,
a group of
fair
people.
enough. It is hard to know what to do with your hands a lot of the time. It's so
Yeah.
weird. But even like, been doing this, I've been doing in various forms. I've been, I've my main source of income and my job has been an actor, comedian, writer, and I still don't really know what to do with my hands.
Yeah.
Apparently, Elvis had that problem though. That's why he had the
Yeah.
guitar.
Was it-
That's why
reminds
he
me-
wanted to play guitar. But yeah, it's weird. It's
Yeah,
it's a bizarre thing, isn't it?
it is a
But
strange one, but I'd like to say I left it to the better people on that front. And I went down the musicians route. So I did the sort of same as you. I played all these venues,
yeah,
on a tour in order to try and, drum up, or play the show, basically play my set of music.
uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
um, and go from there. And I've always likened stand-ups to bands in that
It's
respect
so
because you go
lovely.
off and you do these venues, you tour, you go off. I mean, it's a bit more lonesome as a stand-up.
It is lonesome. I was going to say that's the big difference, really. I think it is quite you are on your own a lot of the time, which is fine, you know, but it's just lovely having your own hour where you've created this thing, I
Yeah.
sat down and just went, I think this is good, you know, and then I go out and get to show it to people and hopefully they love it. You know, it's
Yeah.
such a gift, man.
It
So
is. I mean, it's like sharing any kind of art with anyone is
I'm
fantastic.
incredibly grateful for everyone who comes. I
Yeah.
really am, you know, even the awful ones. No, no, no. Generally, I never really have bad audiences, to be honest. Do you know what is interesting? Now I'm talking about the neurodiverse stuff, just to go back to that.
Yeah.
Audience wise, obviously, it does bring in a lot of people who are neurodiverse.
Mm.
And I really come to rethink my relationship with the audience in many ways because I realize how much I respond to everything they're doing in
Yeah.
a kind of like, oh, that person doesn't like me, that person, blah, blah. And I have to sort of attack, not in a horrible way, but, you know,
No, but you
I have
got
to make that person laugh and get that person, get that person. And I've come to realize often, you know, especially if you are neurodiverse, whatever, you might not be someone who you might, do you know what I mean? Like, so I am having audiences, and I say this without sounding in any way unkind, but like people who are just looking at the floor.
yes.
Do you know what I mean? Or who are slightly rocking or something like that. And my instinct is to go, oh my God, they hate it. They hate the show. What do I do? What do I do? And it's like having to go, oh no, it's okay. They're just enjoying it in a different way to
Yeah.
other people. And that's fine.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's been quite now that obviously because the show and with my podcast and stuff, it is starting to build up an audience of people who are neurodiverse, you know, and you have to go, oh, okay. You know, there is this sort of a whole thing of like people saying, oh, I enjoyed the show. And you go, well, tell your face next time, you know. But it's like, actually, it's come to realize a lot of people just don't. Do you know what I mean? They don't sit there guffawing in the way,
Yeah.
you know, when you see these adverts for comedy clubs and they always cut to the audience all laughing their heads off.
Yeah.
And like, actually, yes, I do. And I should state very clearly, most people are laughing their heads off. Right?
Good.
Imagine, it sounds like I'm saying this is my excuse for my whole audience just being silent throughout. No, it's one of those shows where you laugh when you get home. You know,
Yes.
no, not really.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it is a big guffaws. But yeah, it's just been maybe I find that more interesting than other people. But it's just realizing people, you know, sometimes someone will sit staring at me and I think, God, they hate this. And then they come up to you afterwards and they're like, I love the show. It's very funny. You know, okay.
Yes.
And it's just realizing, yeah, it's kind of, I have to accept
Yeah.
if I'm going to talk about it and make that the essence of the show, you sort of realize, oh, well, the audiences are also a variety of people. And they can respond however the bloody hell they want. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's anyway. Sorry,
No,
I
no,
found it all
I can
incredibly
totally.
fascinating.
No, it's all right. I can totally align with that. Like I DJ nightclubs basically in rock clubs,
Yeah,
and a lot of
right.
the
Yeah,
time I can see the people. I see like there's there's a majority of people dancing. So it's
yeah,
like there's a majority of people laughing, and you got the people on the
yeah.
side that kind of might look like they're not having a good time. And you do kind of focus on those people and you think what's going to make them dance, what track could I play that's going to make them, and you know,
Yeah.
and it turns like nothing, you know, they're not a dancer, they like the public sort of display, they'll sit there with their drink, they'll, you know, they might nod their head but they're not smiling, they're not, you know,
I
and then you kind of like afterwards you go down and they go, oh, that was a great set, or that was like, you know, and you're like, oh, okay,
yeah,
all right,
people
super.
experience things different.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just saying conform to this way of how we think people should look. I went to a gig the other day, and I was going to end up going on my own because my mate dropped out. In the end, he came anyway. But I realized I've never. It was Jeffrey Lewis. You know him? He's sort of anti-folk. He
Oh
did
yes,
that
I've heard
song,
that.
"Don't Be Upset, Don't Get Upset." Really good, really weird stuff. But I was going to say, yeah. So I was struggling to find someone to go. I was like asking all the other dads. You know, my wife couldn't make it, so I was just like, "Does anyone want this ticket?" You know. And then there was this moment where I thought, actually, do I want to just go on my own? This could be really interesting. Do you know, it wasn't a sit down gig as a stand up, but I was like, because I realized in that moment when I go to music gigs with other people, I feel this pressure to almost like I'm performing,
Mm.
like I have to dance or I have to kind of move in a certain way or I have to kind of like woo, whoop and cheer and show my appreciation. And I don't want to do any of that half the time. I actually, my favorite gigs, it's like if you go to Glastonbury or something, my favorite gigs are like the little weird bands in a tent somewhere away from the main stage where
Yeah.
they're just doing weird experimental, you know, sort of Velvet Underground type stuff. And
Yeah.
everyone's just sort of like experiencing it. And it's
Yeah.
wonderful, you know. And similarly, I was there and there was like, you know what I found really weird? It was, you know, he did have like quite upbeat more rocky songs, but it was a very aural experience. You know, it wasn't a mosh pit or anything, and it wasn't all like, you know, it wasn't you were there for the music, but the amount of people just chatting
Yeah.
throughout it in the audience, like they just kept finding these people who were just like, I just stand wherever I stood, there'd be someone just gassing away to them. Hey, what are you doing? You've paid for this ticket. What could you possibly be talking about
Yeah.
that is more in? And I'm not just saying like say the odd thing like going, blah, 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 you know. But then I also thought, oh, possibly they're neurodiverse, you know. This is their way. But anyway, yeah, but it really struck me that I'd never been to a gig on my own. And in the end, I ended up not doing that.
Okay.
But it made me just really question why I do anything. Do you know, like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
as an audience member, there's that interesting split between being, I'm here to experience this thing that I want to experience. Like in a movie, it's great because you just have it, don't you?
Yeah.
But it's just you in the movie, really. And also this awareness that I have to kind of almost perform for the people who are here with me and around me. And sort of, if I'm not dancing, then I'm somehow ruining the experience. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's anyway, sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
I didn't mean to talk about any of this, but it's,
no,
I'm
it's
obviously
all
over
right.
the
I'm not a
scene that I'm
dancer
really
either.
obsessed with.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're not. No, I mean, I am a dancer. I love dancing, but it's like, do you know what I mean? I want to choose, pick and choose.
I'm kind of, if I'm behind the turntables or the deck, whatever I'm playing, I will hop around and stuff like that. There's no sort of there. But when I'm on the sort of floor, like if I go to like a night that's not mine, or if I go, you know, generally I'm standing at the side or whatever. I'm enjoying it. Don't get me wrong, my face might look like, you know, but it's I am enjoying it. Like, but but where my wife's the opposite, she'll go off and dance. She'll want to dance. She'll want to throw, you know, all that
My
kind of
same
stuff.
with my wife. She's sort of, and that's when I feel like, oh, I'm not dancing. I'm somehow letting her down. She never says this. She's a wonderful wife and a wonderful person, but she but yeah, it's that bizarre thing, isn't it? But sometimes I dance for ages and love it. And do you know what I mean? I'm happy as Larry.
Yeah. Well,
there's a whole show in this. There's definitely you've definitely given me a podcast episode to go away and talk about. So thank you for that. No, I hope I've given you one too.
Oh, you have. I've got a couple of questions left for you, if I may, just sort of some round up ones, if you will. Just so we can kind of end on my. I usually end with these two questions anyway, but I've slightly adapted it for you. Well, I don't know, I have actually, so I'm going to go for what I normally ask. So because I normally have musicians on my show, normally of the heavy variety, so a lot of metal bands, rock, stuff like that. I've had comedians like yourself on before. They're both American comedians I've had on before because I used to live over there. So you know, no, I sort of friends with them. But what I want to find out from you is 3 records that really mean a lot to you. So not necessarily your favorite records, if you will, but ones that like you heard a certain track or an album at one point and it sort of made you want to do something, or it made you look further into that band or anything like that. You know, just sort of pivotal moment.
Just FYI, I think this table is reserved in 10 minutes, so
that's fine. It's all right.
But number 1 would have to be Velvet Underground and Nico. It's my favorite record of all time. First time I heard Sunday Morning changed my life. I actually first heard the song Heroin, on the Doors soundtrack to the movie. That is in the movie. And I was like, what is this? I mean, I love the Doors as well, but I was like, what the hell is this? This is something else. This is taking me to another world. I've never tried heroin, by the way, as a substance, as a drug, but as a song, I love it. But weirdly, even though that's what it's about, I didn't even really clock that was. Do you know what I mean? Or it didn't really matter. That's what it's about. It's not. It's just about this experience and journey that it takes you on. And then listen to the albums and I love everything the Velvet Underground did. And Sunday Morning is like, you know, it's my favorite thing of all time. Another one would probably be, it's not necessarily an album, so it'd probably be a best of, but Nina Simone, anything by Nina. But particularly Suzanne, you know, the cover of the Leonard Cohen song. Is again takes you on a journey. I listened to it. A friend of mine, a girl, put it on for me, and we sat in her room drinking tea. I think we were at university, and I was like, "This, I feel like I'm on another planet." It's so I can't. Do you know what I mean? That's what I think I like music to do. Really take me away.
Yes,
to these other worlds.
Definitely.
And just off the top of my head, like I don't listen to it much anymore because it's very much from my youth. But Pulp, different class. I find it hard to go back to the 90s now. Like Blur and Oasis and all that stuff because I just feel like I'm an old man and I was a kid when you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know,
But
I know
his
exactly.
way of his way of talking about being different,
Yeah,
being working class, being in that environment, feeling like a dweeb,
yeah,
but having all this poetry and fun and joy
yeah,
that is shut down because you're odd in some way.
yeah,
I just thought he was just incredible. And also just if you've ever seen him live, Jarvis Cocker, he is a stand-up on stage. He's
yeah.
often musicians try to be a bit stand-up-y, and it's like the worst,
It is.
the worst jokes you ever. I'm not saying you, buddy, but like,
Oh
as
no,
in,
no, no, no.
it's
I never did
it's often
jokes.
it can be a real clunker, can't it? But because they've got all the fans, everyone's like, yeah, but it's like, but he is genuinely really funny. My favorite moment with Jarvis when I saw him is he did obviously Common People is their huge song,
Yes,
and
yeah,
they'd done this whole gig. It was actually when it was just Jarvis Cocker with a band,
yeah,
not Paul. And he got to the end and he was like, I know there's one song we've all come to hear, and one song that we have to play. We're going to do it one last time. This is the last time ever. And it was really going up. So I want to ask you, audience. And everyone's like, oh, he's going to do it. They're going to do Common People. They're going to go. And he goes, have you got the eye of the tiger? And then he just played Eye of the Tiger. It was so funny.
that's
He did
amazing.
the whole of Eye of the Tiger. You get
Ah,
Eye of the Tiger. It just such a beautifully and unnecessary
yeah,
and dweeby thing to do. But a wonderful. So yeah. So they're my three. There you go.
that's amazing. I mean, great picks there. I mean, Pulp, I love Pulp. Like I said, a kid of the 90s here and a little bit of
Yeah.
the 80s as well, obviously. But yeah, just yeah, love that. And obviously Nina Simone, yep. And Velvet Underground, legendary on that front. But finally, Colin, before your table gets
Mm-hmm.
taken away from you,
Yes.
what are your hobbies away from what you do at the moment? So obviously it's probably all life encompassing what you're doing, but have you got any hobbies away from the stand-up, the writing, acting, anything like
Yeah. I mean, my dweeby thing, and I used to kind of not talk about it too much because I feel such a dweeb, but it is I've come to accept it.
Yep.
Is comic books. I mean, I mentioned Venom earlier. I'm not actually a big Venom fan, but comic books are like how I learned to read. All my family's through 2000 AD, just Dredd and all that, and
Yeah.
then I went on to like all the DC and Marvel stuff and everything. And I just constantly think about it all the time. It informs all my work. Um, their kind of morality and also like not that I'm walking through life trying to be a superhero or anything like that, but just it's I think it's kind of like B movies. It's the way Tarantino talks about B movies
Yeah.
because there's no respect. I mean, there is more nowadays with graphic
It is,
novels and
yeah.
stuff, but innately they are a lower art form.
Yes.
In inverted commas, they can explore things in a more excessive and violent and shocking and interesting and bizarre way that nothing else can,
Yeah.
particularly the 2000 AD, the British stuff and all
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
But nowadays, the Marvel ones, because, well, without being too dreamy, what happened was a lot of the 2000 AD writers, Alan Moore, Garth Ennis, all these people
Yeah.
graduated, sort of not graduated, but were picked up by America. So American comics went that way. And just yeah, the way you can just have a whole movie, you can go anywhere. It can be as small and just a conversation. It can be like universe exploding.
Yeah.
I love it. I've actually got a podcast I'd like to say because no one listens to it. I make my mates do it just because it's my favorite thing. It's called A Bomb to Zax, and we're going through every single Marvel Comics character.
Oh, really?
I think partly no one
Wow.
listens to it because the name is really hard to find because it's A Bomb to Zax, and
Yeah.
Zax has got three Z's. But we're going through every single Marvel Comics character, and in a really dweeby way, like rating them in a list. It's so nerdy. But
That's
when I
great.
can't sleep, I go on my iPad and I I've got a Google Doc where I work out which comics to read for which characters and all this kind of stuff.
Okay.
But it gives me such a going back to the Neuroverse thing. It's like a place of comfort and security
Yeah. Yeah.
and calm that
Uh,
nothing else in life really gives me.
yeah. I mean, I've got stacks of comic books behind, well, underneath all here. I've got boxes
I
like
really.
stuff.
Oh,
So,
who's your sort of number one? Mine's probably
um,
Wolverine, I have to say. But your favorite character or
Favorite character
series?
I mean, Green's good. Deadpool as well. I know it's quite topical right now, but I've always loved Deadpool just for its sort of, outlandishness of it. But it's a difficult one because I'm kind of a jack of all. Like I don't have a
Are
specific.
you a bit more DC than Marvel?
No, I'm not. I'm really like either or. Like I've collected like Green Lantern. I've collected Constantine. I've collected
Yeah.
like some limited Marvel runs of it was like the George Romero did a Day of the Dead comic book series before he passed.
Oh, really? Oh, right. I
Um,
didn't know that.
and I think it was called City. I can't remember what it's called, but I've got the series of that, for instance, and
I
like
definitely recommend a book called Jack Kirby: A Life in Comics, which Jack Kirby
yeah, yeah,
basically created, and it's a comic book adaptation someone else has done of his life story, and it's the
okay,
most beautiful, touching,
nice. I will.
sad because he got completely screwed over,
He did, yeah,
and Stan Lee comes across as an absolute nightmare. He's definitely ADHD.
yeah,
It's like, but but an interesting synthesis between them.
yeah.
Uh,
I'll have to
and
check that out because I haven't heard of that one.
really good. And the last panel just made me cry. Everything makes me cry these days. I'm
That's
crying
all right.
now thinking about it.
I was going to say with 2000 AD as well, like
Yeah.
absolutely like Judge Dredd, all that kind of series. Like even
Oh,
like
the early days, it was the
early
best.
days, yeah. And I've got some Judge Dredd stuff. I've got like the zombie judges and stuff like that as well, books.
Oh, yeah.
But I've also got a friend who actually lives in Guildford. He was an artist for 2000 AD, as well as
Oh,
like
what's his
stuff
name?
for Marvel. Charles, I can never remember his last name. I'd have to look it up.
Charles.
Charles someone.
Oh, right. Oh, that's cool.
I'll have to. I can't find it right now. I'd have to go through my Facebook profile and try and find it, but that would be too long. Um, but yeah, I mean, like, and I've got, I've been to obviously multiple Comic Cons and stuff like that. But I've had. Did you ever watch a series called Comic Book Men? It was an American series, but it was made
No.
by. Have you heard of Kevin Smith, the director?
Yes.
Yeah. He produced a TV show called Comic Book Men. It was set in his comic book store in New Jersey, Jay and Silent Bob
Right.
Stash.
Oh, wow.
And I've had two of the guys who work in there still, who are stars of that show. But on here, we chatted loads about comics and stuff like that, and that was good. They recommended a couple to me as well, which I picked up.
Oh, I could talk about all day. Have a listen to my podcast, Abe on to Zach's.
I will.
I'd love to
I've
hear
written
if
that
you
down.
enjoy it or not, because I don't know. It really is just a sad man's passion.
That's
But I'd love to. Yeah. We do have some listeners, but it's all the work required,
Yeah.
as in PR and sell it.
Yes.
Try to get it out there. I just can't be bothered. I just want to do the podcast. I just
Yeah.
want to talk. It's just I've literally just hoodwinked my two best mates into making into.
And then, I mean, like I say,
talking about
with most of
comics.
these things, I mean, I've been doing this podcast well, it's going to be 10 years next month.
Wow.
And a lot of
Wow.
that time has been purely sort of organic building of things. So
Right, that's interesting. How many episodes have you done that?
273, four, including this one.
Oh, okay. So just do one a month.
One a week at the moment.
One a week.
There was a time where it was kind of very sporadic, like at the start. So that's
okay.
why
Yeah.
sort of like
Yeah.
even amount. But I try to go weekly where I can.
Yeah.
Over COVID,
it's hard, isn't it, man?
I mean, when we were all locked down, it skyrocketed. I did like 50 episodes that year. But yeah,
I think they might want me to move. Sorry, by the way.
Yeah, no worries. Well, thank you for your time.
I'm moving around cities, so just finding places to grab stuff like this.
Honestly, it's fine. Thank you very much. And good luck with the tour. I will hopefully be coming to you either Aldershot or Guildford. I'm going to see which days are better.
Wonderful. Please do. Yeah, that was a delightful chat. It's actually really nice to chat to someone because I'm gigging at the minute, so I'm not really seeing anyone. So it's actually really lovely to have a good old conversation.
No, that's
thank
good.
you.
I totally appreciate it, Colin. Thank you very much, everyone. Go check out the tour dates. Go see him on tour rather than just check him out. Buy a ticket.
Birksnest.com is probably the best place to go. Birksnest.com.
Yeah.
Or I am Colin Hoult.com. Yeah.
or there as well, or
Yes.
links off your social media and things like that, because I know you're all over
Uh-huh.
that on that front. But yeah, thank you very much. And yeah,
Fantastic.
good luck with the rest of your tour and everything.
Cheers, pal. Take care. Really
Thank
lovely to
you.
speak to you.
Lovely
See
to
you,
speak to
man.
you as well. Bye bye.